Hi ladies and gentlemen, all the images that are displayed here were made by me. Some of the releases that are not displayed here is because they were made by another graphic artist or they were not worth mentioning. Okay, let's start. This is my first graphical attempt that I could find in my files. About my first music project, Outsider. You can find my music at www.soundcloud.com/outsider with a 3 for an E. That is one of my first pictures. I am this person. I managed to cut the edges and increase the threshold, not very successfully as you can see. I remember that day that I was trying to come up with some graphical decorations about my project Outsider. It was one of my first attempts experimenting with the graphical software. The point of this video is to show off my work. I cannot give you any teachings or advices on how to get better with graphic design, except for one which you already know. The more you do, the better you become. And here, with Panoramix, I scanned Panoramix from a comic book, but his right hand was not there. He was actually mixing the magic broth in the cauldron. And so I deleted the cauldron and I designed the right hand there, attached to his other hand. And I cleaned the edges, I changed the colors. I believe it was my very first visual effect. Here it was a planet and I just tried the kaleidoscope and some lettering and some coloring, and here some lighting, some blurring and some waves, experimental things. Silent Conspiracy Volume 1 was the first release of Ghost Label Records. Also 500 physical CDs were distributed in 2005. Was the first time I released music under the alias open source. Silent Conspiracy Volume 2 was made by another graphic artist, but I made this poster here that was printed and placed on some physical record shops. Back then we had physical records. Here are some posters I made for my parties. It slowly starts to become kind of professional. Here, 2 years later, I made the covers of Silent Conspiracy Volume 3, which was also released in physical record. All of our CDs back then were physical records, and it's not a bad attempt. Not very professional, but probably better than what you can do. In 2009, I decided that I would put out an album with my own music only, and I made the covers. Even though I designed the tribal, I didn't yet incorporate it with my artist name. And here is a poster I made for my first album. And let's move on. Here is my second album. Another 2 years had passed. I was experimenting with more layering, as I can see now. I had no specific idea when I sat down to make this cover, as far as I can see, because it's just abstract layering and experimenting. It's kind of experimental cover. Of course, from time to time I was working on other little graphic projects like social media banners, animation GIFs, graphics for websites, for games, logos, and any other graphical shit that you could possibly imagine. My third personal album has nothing to do with the previous ones. As you might have already noticed, I am not very stable with my productions. I tend to like a style or an aesthetic and produce things based on that style, and then I move on to a totally different style and aesthetic. I released two albums in 2014, Orbital Remixes and Enormously Insignificant, which cover was made by a professional graphic designer. Orbital Remixes was made by me, and as far as I can see, it was my first professional work because the moon was placed there by me and it was placed correctly, judging from the light that comes from the right. The foreground and the buildings were placed by me. It is a decent work, according to my current opinion. Goatica Volume 1, made in 2015, back to the abstract psychedelic layering. At that time, I understood that the font selection was very important. The font selection is not up to you because you need to try a lot of fonts and see which one matches with your graphics. So that by itself is a skill. As I can see here, I placed Parthenon quite okay, and the meteor. And Goatica Volume 3, that's a picture of Athens. I just placed the lightnings. Silent Conspiracy Velvet Edition with some lasers around the frame. Velvet Edition font matches well. We move on. Space Kablooey or Space Kabloye. You might think, what are you showing us here? You just found this picture somewhere and you made a cover. Indeed, I found the picture somewhere. Here is the picture. However, the picture had no musical elements, and I had the idea to place there a guitar next to a tree and add up a music touch in that way. Making a decent cover is not about having extraordinary skills, but getting an idea right on your screen. Psycho Beats. That is a very successful mix. The people seem to like it a lot. It has a big organic reach, and as I see it right now, the background is kind of cartoonish compared to the foreground because the lady is a photograph, but the background could be a sketch by hand, a drawing. But anyway, the concept is good, it matches. In general, it's an okay concept. Psychedelic Realm. This is a very good artwork, according to my opinion. I should had erased and blurred more the downside, because as you can see I flipped the image, but in general the triangles are very artistic and well placed, and the hue coloring is also nice according to my opinion. This cover was not for a release, it was just for a mix when I went to Thailand, and I gave this project to a graphic designer on Fiverr and he couldn't come up with what I had in mind, so then I started making it by myself and I was really pleased and satisfied with the results, because that's a photo, that's me in the photo. Indian Calling, not much work. I just bought this image on Shutterstock and changed the background, the shadows and the coloring. Dragon Warrior is a nice project because as you can see here, a dragon is blended and incorporated with my tribal logo. Genuine work, I dare to say, and I like it. Highly motivated to rock you. I consider it as one of the best titles I ever came up with. As far as the graphics concern, I bought the image on Shutterstock and it's a pretty simple design. Actually, I saw that image during my sleep. I saw a vinyl record in my sleep with a gorilla, and then I woke up and I tried to make it. And now I remember the eyes. Those two red eyes here have extra layers. Anyway, the work is simple. That's not a very simple work because there are 3 or 4 layers blended nicely and the coloring is very good. The original title was The End of the Earth. That's why it has an earth in the center. But then we changed it to Journey into Space. We move on to the next image, which is Goa Planet. Finest Goa trance from around the globe. I like it. Mind Cooler, I've made a whole tutorial about how to make an album cover and a visual loop for YouTube, and that includes the design of Mind Cooler. If you want to see how this cover was made, I have a whole tutorial about it. The Lord, another nice cover. From that point on, my graphical skills started to become professional in matters of quality. Although I can find some errors that I would improve today, but it's okay, it's a decent cover. When I say love, now that's a nice concept. The title was already there, When I Say Love, and then I had to come up with a picture. And the picture I came up with matches. Propolis is the essence that the bees produce, the honey bees. It's a nice cover, simple but decent. Those are cells, honeybee cells. Spirit Warrior, open source versus space vibe. Artistic cover, I could say. Nice coloring, not bad. Professional enough. Psychedelicious. This is a cover that I never published. I was considering naming one track of mine than what it is, but then I changed my mind. Some artwork I made that was printed on posters and on flyers for some of my parties. That is another image that were never used, but I might use it in the future. That is not the final version. That is a sketch, but it will look somehow like that. Psycho. That is another image that were never used for a track that was ultimately named Fucking Psycho, that I was considering releasing as a single, but then it was released in the solo album. That is real food actually served in one Japanese restaurant. The Vegan, Alice. I made the cover of Alice according to the taste of the producer. Klassische Musik. Well, that is a nice concept. Not many skills were necessary in order to produce that image, but the concept required experience. Aquarius Consequences, a simple cover. Alaska. I don't have to say anything about this concept because I believe it speaks for itself. Inverted Dimension. We released a track by Spectrosensis and I made his cover in 2018. Another release by Ghost Label Records in 2018, produced by Lion Kid. Lasmar's My Brother has become a world hit. Too many listens and too many likes on this particular production. Your Eyes, a art cover for Red Pulse. It's a nice cover. It matches with his song title, Your Eyes. It provides a sense of abstractness and surrealism. I like it. Bravo, Angelo. You don't do everything wrong. Industries. Well, when somebody sends you a track named Industries and you have to come up with a graphic, I don't know what else you could think of, but for me it was not the most inspired thing in the world. Future Energy, a cooperation between Lasmar and Red Pulse. Not a bad idea, but not the best one either. Goa Spirit is a nice artwork, nice blending, nice coloring, nice transparency between layers. Let's move on to the next one, Flying Lotus. I like it. I made this flower line by line. Mother Earth, an even better one. Really nice. I used two globes in this image and both match perfectly. Red Pulse, Hot Machine, not one of my favorites. Answer, well, that came out good. I like Answer. We Are the Gods is one of my favorites, and the people seem to like it too. The whole concept is kind of modern and eccentric. Anarchy's Reality Collision. The picture matches very well with the title. Beat Hackers and Perplex online. False Prophets. That particular artwork troubled me a lot because the house that you see here was not burning. I made it burning and then I had to find frame that matches the animal fur. I will demonstrate here fast forward how I did it. I kept some video footage of the makings, but I had like 20 attempts that failed. Countless fails before the desired results. Synthesis by Orwen. That is a very nice cover. It was my first time with a synthwave culture, and even though I had no clue about this culture, I believe I achieved the required results. The image is nice. Cine remix. An okay image. Keep on moving. Very nice smoke here on M, on moving. I set the letters on fire very successfully, although the duplicated image on the top could improve. Solo, my album, photograph, concept, everything by me. I didn't make it like that on my first attempt. It took me a lot of effort to come to this point. Only the shooting took me a whole morning. 100 shots were taken, and then I had to choose which one I will use. Time Riders Volume 1 is a blend of techniques that I learned all these years. I had to delete a guy that was standing in front of the car and many other small adjustments. And now, two releases that will be released in 2020. The first one is Out of Time. It seems like a photo, but there are many details. If you see on the screen, my logo appears in construction mode and other things that you cannot spot. And my latest image, which might be the best of all. There is another reason why this image is special. Usually when I make an image, I make 2-3 sketches totally different, and then I see them after a few days and I decide which one I'm going to use, if I'm going to use any of those, or if a new one is needed. And if I'm going to use one of those, what changes and improvements can I do in order to make a better cover. But with this cover, that did not happen. I just sat and made a cover throughout in a couple of hours, and that was it. I saved it, I looked at it after a few days and I said, no adjustments are needed. I am going to use it as it is. It has many things that you can't see, like her hair is on fire. It is an artistic cover. I think people will like it. So, what do you think about my graphics? Do you believe that there was an improvement all these years? What is your favorite cover? Comment below and let me know, cause I'm really curious. And thanks for watching.